Welcome back to Zero Dark Thirsty. We're here with Boots2Boo'd Up. Miss Irina, segment host. She's amazing. The host of Boots2Boo'd Up. I'm so excited. She has so much to give, so much to offer, and she's been an amazing segment host for this segment with putting it together. We also have our guest, Kate.
Hello.
Yes. So she was a prior service member. She's a veteran. And she also, after getting out, she supported an active duty service member as a spouse.
Mhm.
And we're going to get into her story. And definitely at the end, we're going to have a snippet of how important it was to her
Mhm.
husband that she did have that experience. So I'm really excited to hack into that story at some point. So hey, Miss Kate, how are we doing?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for inviting me to come chat with you guys and hang out and doing something really cool, which is talking about myself. Yes, yeah. This is exciting.
Get it, girl.
Yeah, this is really cool. I'm so excited to dive into this, and feel free to pick my brain in any way that you guys see fit.
Could you tell us a little bit about your transitions? Obviously, as a veteran myself, I found the transition into becoming well, for me, it's future spouse, but for you, a spouse. How did how did that transition look for you? Like how kind of giving me your, I guess, takeaway.
That's a really great question, because I feel like a lot of when you are going from active duty service to dependent status, there's so much that isn't covered outside of like the paperwork stuff. And if I remember correctly, because it wasn't exactly yesterday, I left service in 2008, there was quite a bit that I was like, oh, you need this? Oh, you need that? Oh, okay. So I kind of felt like I wasn't really getting guided out. It
Mm.
was more, oh, you're leaving? Good luck to you. And that was something that really sort of shook me. That was my first, I hate to say red flag because that term is tossed around so much nowadays. But it really was. It was almost like, okay, well, you've made your decision. Now it's time to go. Now, that's not everybody's experience. I'm grateful for that. But for me in particular, it felt like I was starting to get severed from something that had been such a big part of my life. So
Mm.
that's what I walked away with, like, oh, they're starting, not to care as much anymore. And that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit.
I feel that. The sense of
So
community,
So it
right?
kind of
Yeah.
felt like you were changing hands almost, like you were leaving it behind. It feels like that's how you felt.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I have a crazy story about that time period. So at this point for the story, I had actually left active duty service. Our son was born, and we were PCSing back to the States. And we were staying in one of the like family TLFs. And my husband got notification that we were going to have to go to an airman accommodation, which is like, one room, one bed. And both of us said, oh, that's logistically not cool. We can't do that with an infant and, so on and so forth. So he went back and forth with lodging. My job in the Air Force was services. So I knew everybody at lodging and I knew everybody at the fitness center and so on and so forth. So I said, hey, let me like see if I could go, help this out. So I go down to the front desk and I talk to the person on duty and I was like, hey, so, this is my husband's name. This is what we're facing. And the response was, oh, if we knew it was you, then we wouldn't have done that. And that was like another moment where it was, and this is going to sound a bit egotistical, but there was a loss of power. There was a loss of influence where now people are just going to be looking to my husband. They just want to talk to him. They just want to work with him. And after, 7 years of being the person that was talked to, that was a big blow to my self-esteem, that was going to be my future, that I was just sort of this faceless creature in the background. So yeah, it there that is.
Well,
It's
that's
here.
powerful. Because I bet a lot of people feel that way, right? Because I didn't get to experience that because I went veteran and I'm becoming a spouse now. And I
Mhm.
was a spouse before, and as a spouse before service, it was completely different.
Mhm.
So I feel like a lot of people resonate with that, but don't talk about it enough, right? I feel like I've never heard of it, but I feel like so many people feel it.
Yeah, when you're, especially for me, I loved the fact that I could pick up a phone and say, "Hey, it's Staff Sergeant Perez. I got a situation going on over here. Can you help me out?" And 9 times out of 10, it could happen. Like, I can make it happen as just a measly little staff sergeant. I remember working at the
That's
fitness
not
center.
measly. That staff sergeant isn't measly. Sorry.
You're right. I guess I say that because I saw my husband get all the way up to master, and I have a terrible, terrible time with comparison.
Mm.
And not to say that everything is a competition, but it kind of is. So that's not healthy. So going back to that, it was, um, hey, remember that time I had a thought and then I lost it?
So I want to touch on something that you said, and it kind of, I kind of felt something in this. So it's like you were having this moment where you're in a lot of veterans that become spouses go through this moment of, when you were walking up before they realized who
Mhm.
you were just the spouse, you were just the
Yes.
wife.
Yeah,
And then
there's
you
a
had to announce it of who you
yeah,
are. And
yes, and who I was
it
connected
was
to.
then, and it's like, well, hold on a damn minute. I'm a veteran, friend,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
and then it's like, oh, my bad. I totally got it now. So it
yeah.
was in that moment. It's like they unknowingly, but it's like they stripped that all that time you spent, the rank, all the things that
Mhm.
you went through, just in that one
Yeah,
moment, it was just stripped
yeah.
away.
Yeah, it took the wind out of my sails a little bit. I mean, not that I wasn't out changing the world by any stretch of the imagination, but in my little corner of it, I can say that I was able to meet some amazing people, officers, senior NCOs, and develop relationships and friendships with them. And this is when I was stationed at RAF Lake and Heath. And knowing that we were leaving that and going to Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho, I knew then that everything was gone. I had no friends. I had no one to call. I had no help that I could bring in. That definitely is something that stayed with me for a very long time, that I became the other. I deployed quite a bit when I was active duty. I joined May of 2001. Obviously, tragically, 9/11 was not long after. So after being a pipeline student and pipeline student and then getting to my first base it was literally like, hey, knock out your CDCs. Okay, you're deploying. And so I deployed a lot. And in those sort of environments, you really, really, really create amazing relationships. Especially if you're doing something like building a base up or tearing a base down. I've done both. And, there was times when you're in Qatar and it's like summertime, nobody's wearing their covers, nobody's wearing their jackets. And then all of a sudden you realize that somebody you've been working next to for the past like 4 months, oh, that's a lieutenant colonel or, something crazy like that. And I knew all of those experiences were never going to happen again. And yeah, it was tough. But I hate to make it sound like it was all negative. To the other side of that, the lessening of expectations really helped me breathe a lot easier. I didn't have to worry about getting a phone call at 0 dark 30 and saying, hey, you have 48 hours, get your bags together, we're out the door. I didn't have to worry about blues inspections. I didn't have to worry about the PT test. Girl, let me tell you, when I knew that I was done with the PT test, I was like, no more mile and a half.
I feel that.
I was like, golden. Because when I first joined, they were still doing the bike test. Oh, God,
Oh,
I
I
sound so
heard
old.
about that. That
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
horrible.
Oh, it was fantastic. No, I'd smoke a cigarette and then go knock it out the park every time. It was great. So, there's a lot of good things that came with it. And I also became softer as a person, especially as a female. And you are in this heavily male dominated environment. You kind of are pushed into losing some of that softness, some of that
Yeah.
femininity, in order to kind of hang with the boys. So I got to re-embrace that. I mean, I've always been kind of a tomboy, so it wasn't a whole lot of embracing, but I got to kind of step back into that. And I got super lucky with who I married. My husband has been an outstanding individual from the jump. And
He seems very
he's
laid back. Like he just has this kind of this
Mhm.
observant style of manner. You know what I mean? Like
Yes. Yeah.
that's and I've never seen him. I've never met him in person, but I could gauge that from him. Like he's a
Yeah.
listener. He's
He really
methodical.
is.
Yeah.
I have never heard a negative thing about him. And, when you're in, people talk shit all the time.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, if they don't like you, you're going to hear about it. And he
Not
has
from them,
always,
from everybody else. Yeah.
from everybody
Yeah.
else, yeah, from the dependent network, he'll be like, oh, that's your husband? Yeah. So no, he really made it very easy because he left that, and this is so important for people who are transitioning, to have a partner who will create space for you to go through that emotional journey, the good, the
Mhm.
bad, and the ugly. And so he held that bucket while I just went through the process of that purging process. And I will forever be grateful. If there's anything that I leave people with, it's make sure you have a good partner as you go through this transition, because it's going to take both of you. The kids are great, but they can't emotionally hold you up. That's yeah, there's a phrase for that, and it's not healthy.
Well, you were a whole adult before, it's not like
Yeah.
it's very different. And that's where Boots to Boot Up comes in because it's very different from, and even I felt a certain way as a military spouse.
Mhm.
So many are very young when they
Yeah.
get married. So they hadn't had really the opportunity to grow as an adult.
Yes, very true.
And I'm not trying to down, if they're 20, 21 years old. I mean, boo us just hey. Like I don't want to be rude, but like if you were still on your parents' insurance, you hadn't fully adulted yet. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's what you're going to be around.
Yeah.
You need to, have that sort of transition to where
Mhm.
you can allow yourself to kind of, I wouldn't say let go, but learn what the new space is and how to transition into that. What do you
I,
think?
I I think that letting go is actually the right way, because you
Yeah.
you do
Okay.
go through a mourning process. You do go through a period of goodbye, and it's not see you later, because when you're out, you're out. I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule, but for me, I was stepping into the role of a full time mom and wife, and I was saying goodbye to the chapter of where I was this strong, independent woman, and, you know, taking care of my own bills and my own car. And,
Mm.
when I was deployed and going back and forth, I was handling business. And now I was part of the team. And I had to learn how to be a team player. And when you add also, this is someone that I'm intimate with and somebody who I'm creating emotional bonds with, is you have to be comfortable with being vulnerable, and or at least comfortable pushing yourself in that direction. Because I firmly believe that that transitional time period, you are very, very vulnerable because you are recreating yourself. And
Yes.
that's daunting, especially if you're a little bit older. And I'm glad you brought up the age thing, because when Avi and I got married, we were 26, 27 respectively. So, we had the crazy exes, and we had, our fun flings, and we had our wild night partying and all that kind of stuff. So by the time we got together, we were ready to kind of say goodbye to that. I really think that was something that was in our favor. Again, lends into when I was going through that transition, because it wasn't just a transition for me either. It was a transition for him to, now this chick is home all the time. And that had to be rough. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I am a walk in the park. No, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Girl, like you were singing my song. And I wasn't even a veteran, like, but I got it. Like I not at that level, but Like, cause when I met when I met my son's dad, I had my own house, I had a
Hmm.
career, I had all the things, I had a
Right.
life, my friend group. Like, we were sitting here and I always joke because I was sitting here like this, Miss Independent Woman, like, if you like it, then you gonna put a ring on it. Because if not, like, I got this, boo. I don't need you. I don't need your medical. I don't need
Yeah.
any of that. I have a
I
really
love
pretty
it. Yeah.
PPO. We're good. So
Right.
and then like when we got married, it was 2000, it was mid 2007.
Hmm.
And then we get to Yuma, Arizona. And then they were already feeling the onset of the housing market
Hmm.
issues. The rest of the country hadn't, but they were already feeling Phoenix was one of the hardest hit areas. Yuma's right down the
Yeah.
road. So they were already it was already showing the signs there. Unemployment was already up
Hmm.
and I was in banking and then yes, that's what I came out of. And so my whole world crashed. Like I
Yeah.
went from all that to just being a wife and now I'm not bringing in an income and I have
Yeah.
and I will tell you that transition, for me was really hard because I had a spouse that at the time they were like, just get a job, just get a job, just get a job. I'm like, there
Hmm.
are no freaking jobs. Like, do you not understand? So the market just crashed. We're having thousands of layoffs everywhere. There's high
Yeah.
unemployment. They never understood that. And so I felt incredibly alone, like
Yeah.
incredibly alone, incredibly misunderstood. um I wanted to go home not because of military life, I couldn't handle it, but I missed my life. I missed
Yeah.
calling the shots. I missed providing for myself and all
Hmm.
these things, and it's like, what's happening here, and there is that struggle trying to find the ground. But then when I'm around people, the military spouses, a lot of them, this is all they know because they've been doing it since 18 years old. So I
Yeah.
wasn't relatable.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to relate to them. And I felt like there was a difference. So I related a lot more actually to the spouses who were prior veterans or prior
Hmm.
military because we had lives where there was kind of that understanding.
Yeah.
But it was just, it kind of it's very isolating.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up such a great point when you speak of the loss of additional income. I struggled with that aspect for years. I would occasionally, when things were tight, I would pick up a job, whether that was waitressing or short order cook, or I worked retail for a little bit. Never again. That was, my gosh.
The
Yeah.
worst.
Oh I thought I had seen like the worst of people. Old Navy Christmas time?
It's like a
Absolutely not.
whole new ball game up in there.
I literally, the craziest thing, I saw two women get in a fight over a clearance shirt. What? And then somebody was like, "Are you going to break that up?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not paid enough to get in
No.
the middle of that."
Yeah.
First of all, it's two chicks. So we all know we're not getting in the middle of that. But yeah, so getting back on track, the financial aspect was something I really, really struggled with
Let me ask you about the
because,
retail. Hold on, because we'll get into the
sure,
financial. Because I wonder if we had the same moment since we worked retail. I'm sorry if I'm taking over,
no,
Irina.
no, no, you're
But
good.
like,
Oh, you're good.
I am sitting there there were other military spouses, but some of the people I worked with were fresh out of high school, and I'm the same rank as them.
Mhm.
And they're trying to get snotty and all these things. And I'm like, bitch, do you know who I fucking am? Damn it. I could go home and have a better job. Like, go sit down. The adults are
Yeah,
talking.
yeah,
So, like, I mean, it was demoralizing. I felt
yeah,
like, it's like, and that's probably too strong of a word, but I was just like, I literally was having that moment with this,
yeah,
and I'm like, this is not me. This is
yeah.
this
It
this
was,
this is not what I strove to be. It was work,
Mhm.
sell clothes, and deal
yeah.
with this bullshit. Like
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not out of
absolutely. Because
career.
that's what it is. That my heart goes out to anybody who makes that a career. Like you really gotta love it or be super good at it. because what comes with it to me doesn't balance out to what that paycheck shows. Like, absolutely
A
not.
little
And then, like you
$7 an
said,
hour. Yeah.
yeah, and you're dealing with 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. It's their first job. They don't know their ass from their elbow. And I'm like, I'm here to be, to get money. I'm not here to be your babysitter. I'm not your friends. I definitely have plenty of those, and you don't fall in that circle, boo boo. Yeah, so I completely understands that, and having a few moments, like I would be standing at the table folding t-shirts or whatever, and like the little voice in my head would be saying, just a few years ago, you were carrying M16s through the airport, getting ready to, do some shit. And now you're folding baby clothes.
Yes, that's that right there. That's what, yes, yes. And that's something that needs to be talked about, because it's like you can railroad right over that and get on past it. And it's like, wait a minute, like I was a person, like I
Yeah.
was somebody,
Yes.
and now you have this harsh reality of who you now are. And it's,
Yeah.
and then, at the time, because we're older, at the time, you didn't have trying to find jobs in these towns. You didn't have remote jobs.
Yeah.
You didn't have all these crazy resources that you have now.
Absolutely.
Not that there still isn't difficulty. I'm not saying that, but the unemployment rate back then for spouses was 75%. It's
Yeah.
only 45% now. So let's just put it in perspective.
I'll be
But
honest. What
I mean,
worked
it
for
was
me, uh, yeah, and what worked for me, the benefits, and I'm kind of tooting my own horn here a little bit, is that I could talk my way into any door, and I was so blessed for that ability to bullshit, because that's really what it was. When I got the job, this is when we were at Kiesler, and I got a job as a short order cook. And what had happened was is I had spent the whole day dropping off resumes and going back to other places that I had already
because
dropped some
that's
off.
real
And
boots on the ground right there, buddy. That's where the
exactly.
rubber meets the road.
So I go to this restaurant that's across the street from base housing, and I sit down, and there's this adorable little bartender, and he was like, "Hey, you need a drink?" And I said, "Please." So we started chatting, and I was just telling him how hard it was to try and get a job, any kind of job. I was like, I'm not picky. I have experience with this, this, and this. And what I don't know, I could learn. And I'll be damned if he didn't end up getting me a job at this restaurant. And let me tell you something. One of the best things, the craziest things that I've learned being transitioning into a civilian status and working in a kitchen. Number one, only me and this bartender were the only one working there that didn't have like a past felony charge. However, I would trust those people no problem whatsoever. There's something to be said about people who cook and people who join the military, where it is this ragtag, highly unstable, super crazy individuals who come together and make magic happen. And it doesn't make sense to anybody on the outside. The chaos doesn't make sense. The shit talk doesn't make sense, but there's a lot of love and there's a lot of trust. So that was fantastic to be able to have that experience again. And the other time that I got this, you guys ready for this? Okay. Hold on to your hats. I actually worked security at Disney World, right?
Oh.
Okay. First of all, the uniforms, oh my Jesus, they're horrible. But everybody that I worked with, I would have to say a good 85% were either prior law enforcement, so prior Leos, prior military, or like EMTs. So all of us in some capacity, or most of us in some capacity, had seen some shit or been through some shit. So when we're on stage, as they call it, where you're dealing with the guests coming in and all that kind of stuff, everybody's professional and, hey, how you doing? Oh my gosh, welcome to Disney. Ah, and then you get backstage, and it's like, oh, fuck you, dude. And, your mother, and like all this sort of like horrible language between everybody. But oh my gosh, it's just some of the most amazing, wonderful, kind-hearted individuals that I had ever met. And I never thought, like, what a weird, random place to find fellowship, but as a Disney security
That's
guard.
amazing.
What? So yeah, it was to anybody watching, if If you are living in or around Orlando, Florida, and you are looking for something that is going to give you that sense of military love again, go work for Disney, like 100%. You also get free passes and never have to pay to get in.
Yeah,
That's
I
also,
love that.
yeah.
Do you
So,
think that that kind of camaraderie and having that back like helped you? Because
oh,
I feel
yeah.
like I miss that, right? Like I miss my fiance is in maintenance. I did maintenance in the Air Force, and
Well,
so
okay.
I was like the only woman in my shop at the end of my career. And so when he comes home, I'm always like, "Oh, so like what'd you do at work today?" Like,
Yeah.
"Tell me," and I'm like, I just want to be in, right? He's always like, "You're so blue." It was like, "I have an award ceremony coming up," and I was like, "Yeah, can we go? Because I miss the community, right? I miss being around that." So do you feel like when that's, like, so important for people to transition to find something and maybe it's not a job, right? Maybe it's
Mhm.
just a community. Do
Yeah.
you think that's important for you to have during your
Yeah.
transition?
It's vital. It's not even I don't strongly suggest, I'm telling people,
Mm,
become a part of something as you transition out. Join a running club, join a mom's group, join a book club, whatever kind of speaks to you. That was my biggest mistake is that I went from being active duty to, I kid you not, completely isolated with a newborn baby. Hello, postpartum depression. And that was such a rough time, especially since, like, by the time I had my son, all of my friends had PCSed out. So it was really
oof.
just my husband's friends. And
Mhm.
God bless them. But we're talking about single maintainers, right? Which I was playing mom more than anything else. Yeah, that's a whole we'll have conversations offline because none of this I could like repeat some other thing I the things that I would hear from these guys. But yeah, I would definitely say work at finding yourself another sort of community that speaks to you as a person. You know what I did end up doing, this was a few 2 years after I left service, is I started fostering dogs.
Oh,
And I'm a huge animal lover. Anything four
yeah.
legs and fur or three legs, I'll take them too. Anything like that, I immediately gravitate. I've had horses in my life and pigs and so when I started fostering, the people that I met through that again were some of the most kind-hearted and welcoming individuals. And where I really connected with them is that all of them in some way, shape, or form were a little socially awkward. And I
Mhm.
really felt that. I feel like I can present a certain way, but if you were to kind of go in my head, it is nothing but like individuals running around like there's a fire. It's all chaos and anxiety going on. And they got that. And that's something that we talked about openly. And how difficult it was to talk to people, especially if your bullshit threshold is low.
Mm.
One of the things that I attribute to military service is that I could pick up on POS pretty quick, and I have no tolerance for that. And they also had that. It's something you can develop, but I think for the most part, you either have it or you don't.
Mhm.
And all of them had that. So you would have, and why that was important is you would have somebody come up wanting to adopt a dog and you would talk to them and engage for a few minutes. And then you'd be like, or, oh,
Mm.
yeah, this is going to be perfect. And that's a skill that will be beneficial no matter what you do in life, honest to goodness. Yeah. Finding a group, finding your people, finding your niche. Yeah. 2000%. I recommend that.
Well, this has been an amazing episode
Oh, man,
of
I had
Boots
fun.
to Boot Up. Thank you so much, Miss Kate, for joining us.
Thanks.
Always Miss Irina, who's the most amazing segment host. I'm so glad that she's here. Thank everyone for tuning in. Definitely more to come. I know me and Miss Irina have some stuff scheduled to have some one-on-ones regarding transition life with veterans who become spouses. So definitely stay tuned. And this has been an episode of Zero Dark Thirsty. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.